My name is Kelly Brown, and my job here is an ambassador.
Throughout the years, America has known a strong and persistent feeling of racism and discrimination. Improvements were progressively made, but for too long, segregation has been and still is a problem. The most obvious and noticeable example of racism and inequality was, of course, the whole slavery situation. On July 9, 1868, the 14th Amendment was passed, protecting Afro Americans against white privilege. Good improvement, but that amendment, concerning a quite subjective matter, white privilege being more of a concept than of a defined thing, that clause has largely been abrogated. Even after that amendment was passed, segregation was organized with places reserved only for whites or black people. In theaters, swimming pools, buses, or any kind of public facilities, discrimination still operated. And when people of color faced justice, they were of course also discriminated in quite obvious ways. In Ohio, a well known and interesting story was the one of Davenport and Gold. The two men were judged on the same day and were found guilty of stealing. One was sentenced to 30 days of prison for stealing a car. The other one was sentenced to 3 years of hard labor for stealing a bike. You guessed which one was white. According to recent data by the Department of Education, African American students are arrested far more often than their white classmates. The data show that 96,000 students were arrested and 242,000 referred to law enforcement by schools during the 2009-2010 school year. Of those students, Black and Hispanic students made up more than 70% of arrested or referred students. Harsh school punishments, from suspensions to arrests, have led to high numbers of youth of color coming into contact with the juvenile justice system at an early age.
I think that the justice system has always been a failure to a lot of people, especially minority groups. Uh, Growing up down south, I grew up in Mississippi, and I know being in Mississippi that a lot of cases that time things happen in cases like the Mega Ever case where a man was killed who was a black leader, advocate for black civil rights movement was killed, and the guys that did it, they never was prosecuted until maybe 40, 50 years later. You know, and back then in the early 50s and 60s, that a white man wouldn't be tried in a court of killing a black man. You know, that was never heard of. So court is never fair when it comes to people of color. To me, where guys just plead guilty for a lesser sentence in order to just get it over with. When somebody come to you and say they're gonna give you 5 to 20 years of a crime that you didn't commit, yeah, and you're not able to prove that you was in a place of not being able to commit that crime, then most likely you're gonna plead guilty. In a lot of cases, you have a lot of young African American men that get caught with drugs or other things, and what they do is they plead guilty to a lower charge. Over a period of time, those charges become a felony. The next thing you know, when they commit a crime that they might be guilty of, then they add that on to it also, and then you end up seeing guys going to spend 10 or 15 years in prison.
What kind of improvements could be done in the justice system so to make it some improvements and to make it more equal and more just?
I would say the improvement would be that you be judged on your peers, and I mean peers for if an African American person to go into court, then you need to have more African American people on that jury. If you can afford to have a lawyer, if you can't afford to have a lawyer, they need to have somebody that really there for the best interest of that client, mm-hmm, and not just there to try to make some money or try to get a name for himself in order to have his own private practice.
All right. And what do you think about releasing people if they pay money to go out of jail? What do you think of that?
I think everybody should have an opportunity to pay a bond, be able to have somebody represented where he can go out and be able to find somebody to represent him in the right way. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? But if everybody should be able to have a fair trial. A lot of times when you go to jury trial, they ask you to put your hand on the Bible. They used to put your hand on the Bible, tell the truth, the whole truth, so help your God. What God got to do with you being in a court and being tried for a crime that you didn't commit. You know what I'm saying? God can't change that.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Only somebody gonna change that is the judge or the jury. And if you found guilty, which we know a lot of guys is locked up in prison and coming out that find out later on that the DNA saying that person wasn't there or the person didn't do it based on the DNA.
Yeah.
But years ago they didn't have DNA. So you got a lot of guys doing 20, 30 years that been in prison the rest of their life. So they was in jail because somebody said they did this, or the jury decided that, okay, based on the evidence, that this guy committed that crime. So if we're going off all the evidence, then that guy is being misrepresented by whoever the state attorney, the state prosecutor is. You know what I'm saying? So I know for myself that is unfair. But what we got to do as people is we got to come together and try to change that. And what we got to do is try to have more young men of colors or more women of colors or either European to be able to say, hey, I believe in the system. I know the system is not right. What can I do to change that? Go to school, become a lawyer, and then hopefully down the line you become a judge.